Alright, so if you're here, you are probably very interested in sustainable and ethical fashion, but also having an aesthetic wardrobe, or maybe you've seen the countless TikToks and YouTube videos and articles on how horrible Shein and other fast fashion companies are, and you're feeling an overwhelming amount of guilt and dread about how much money you've spent on these fast fashion companies. And if that's you, it's okay. Take a deep breath. We've all been there, and the fact that you're here and trying to learn more about sustainable companies is a good sign. Don't worry too much about being perfect and having a completely sustainable wardrobe. Just doing the little things you can do to make your carbon footprint a little bit better is what really matters. So if you couldn't tell, today I'm going to be talking about ethical brands to build an aesthetic wardrobe. I talk about a bunch of different fashion aesthetics on this channel, so I'm going to be talking about brands and what aesthetics you can find items for there. And I'm going to be using their Good On You rating. If you don't know already, Good On You is a website where you can basically look up any brand and see how ethical and sustainable they are. So almost all the brands I'm listing here today have at least a good rating, except for one of them. One of them has an It's a Start rating, which I'll mention later. But most of them have at least a good rating. Now I just want to note that pricing can be a bit higher for sustainable brands because you are paying for the labor. These companies do try to pay a more livable wage for their workers, and you're paying for sustainable materials, and it definitely can be a luxury to buy sustainable clothing. Even for me, a lot of these are honestly out of my budget. It'd be nice to have that kind of money, not gonna lie, but I do tend to thrift more. Sometimes I do spend a lot on a particular item of clothing when I impulse buy and I just really fall in love with a certain piece. But like $40 for a plain white tee, I get it, that's a lot for a lot of people. But if you do like an item from one of these brands, it can be worth it to save up for it. And like I said, just that little effort you make really does help, even if you don't have a fully sustainable wardrobe. So grab a pen and paper because I have like 27 brands to get through. And before we get started, like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at DRESSRELIEF and on TikTok at DRESSRELIEF. And let's get started. First off, there's Mango London, which is the brand that I mentioned earlier that has an It's a Start rating instead of a good rating. But I really did want to mention this because I have some items from there that I really like, and they just have a bunch of lines that are like suitable for aesthetics that I mentioned in the past. Like I've talked about fairy grunge, I've talked about 90s grunge, and this brand has a lot of items that fit those aesthetics. So their pricing ranges from $40 for a top to the $100 range, and they do have sales as well. And their items would definitely fit the fairy grunge aesthetic like I mentioned, the kind of TikTok alt aesthetic, and the grunge aesthetic, the e-girl aesthetic, maybe the Akubi aesthetic, which I just did a video on, and the Y2K aesthetic. Next is Veja, which is a sustainable shoe brand with a pricing of $140 and up. I feel like their shoes can fit cottagecore, kind of just an everyday style. I have a sleek white pair of sneakers from there that I feel like fits a bunch of different aesthetics, or I just wear with a super casual outfit. It works for casual dark academia outfits, maybe for the Akubi aesthetic as well, or the off-duty model look. Next there's Change, spelled CHNGE. Their pricing ranges from the $30 range to $80-ish, and they also have sales as well for less than $30. And I feel like their items would fit Y2K, streetwear, and athleisure, definitely more casual vibe. Next there's Afens, which has a pricing of $40 for a top to the $200 range, and they also have sales as well. I would say their items fit 90s and Y2K. They have trousers that might fit dark academia. Some items might also fit the alt and witchy vibe, athleisure, some flare pants that might fit the 70s style, the off-duty model look, and they just have some basics as well. Next there's Wawa, which ranges from $40 for accessories up to the $100 range. They have a lot of cargo pants that fit that utilitarian and gorgecore vibe. Y2K, Akubi, and Subversive also wear a lot of cargo pants. They also have basics and items that would fit the streetwear aesthetic. Next we have Spell, which ranges from the $100 range to the $200 range, and their aesthetic can fit the 70s style, the bohemian and hippie style, maybe some cottagecore, and they also have some dark academia pieces as well, like waistcoats and trousers. Frankie is a good brand that has reworked clothing, which I think is really cool and unique. Their prices range from $20 all the way up to $500 because they do have reworked designer brands as well. I think their aesthetic could fit streetwear, baddie aesthetic, maybe even Akubi, and athleisure because they do have a lot of sports jerseys and athletic brands reworked into different clothing items as well. Next, there's local European, which ranges from $40 to the $100 range. They can fit the Academy aesthetic, the Y2K aesthetic, and the off-duty model look because they do have kind of a sleek style. There's People Tree, which ranges from $40s to the $200 range. They also have sales as well that you can check out for more affordable prices. And I feel like their aesthetic would definitely fit cottagecore and maybe even dark academia. Cotton is another brand that has a lot of basics, but also some pieces that would fit dark academia, and their prices range from $15 to $200. Flare Street is a really cool, unique brand because they focus on flared pants and bell-bottom pants like the name suggests. Their prices range from $60 to $100, and of course flared pants would definitely fit the 70s vibe, the hippie aesthetic, and the whimsigoth aesthetic. Earthkind is a brand that looks really interesting to me. Their prices range from $20s to the $200 range. They have a lot of basics and a lot of items that would fit dark academia. Naz ranges from $60 to $200 with a lot of dark academia items as well. Illstrumentalist ranges from $100 to the $200 range, and I feel like their current collection really fits the 60s to 70s vibe, but I'm not really sure if their other collections fit that vibe or if it depends on the collection. Maybe their style changes, but I really like their pieces, so I wanted to include them. R.LUM.R is a brand with a lot of witchy styles, maybe the 90s grunge style, and maybe some dresses that fit cottagecore and fairy grunge. And their prices range from $15 all the way up to $2,000. Jan and June has prices that range from $30 to the $200 range. They have a lot of dark academia style items, maybe some cottagecore dresses, and the off-duty model look because of their sleek silhouettes. Whimsy and Row is another brand that fits cottagecore and dark academia, and I feel like their style is very similar to Reformation, which is also another sustainable brand, but I didn't include it there because they have some controversy surrounding racism that came out during the pandemic, and I just feel like that doesn't really fit the ethical standard. So it is an option, but I would definitely look into that first before you buy from Reformation. But Whimsy and Row has a price range from $60 to $200, and they also have sales, so I would look into the sales for sure if you are more on a budget. Boyish is a brand that I've heard about a lot, and they have a lot of denim and jeans, but there's also some dresses that look like they would fit cottagecore and dark academia as well, and their prices range from $50 to the $200 range. Nay is another really cool sustainable shoe brand that ranges from $70 to the $100 range, and they also have sales. They have a lot of combat boots which can fit so many aesthetics, fairy grunge, alt aesthetics, even casual dark academia would use combat boots, and they also have more dressed up boots and loafers that would fit dark academia, and they have sandals that you might be able to wear for fairycore. Christy Dawn is cottagecore 1000%. These dresses are so perfect for cottagecore, and their prices range from $60 all the way up to $600 for a coat. And finally, we have Sammy Miro Vintage, which I feel like has a very unique style that would fit a lot of alt aesthetics, the Academy aesthetic, and maybe even subversive basics. And their prices are definitely steeper, starting from $100 and up. And finally, I wanted to touch upon some sustainable brands for basics and kind of like a Uniqlo alternative. So first we have Ten Tree, which ranges in price from $40 to the $100 range. Another brand I've heard of a lot is Girlfriend Collective, which has a lot of athletic wear, and that also ranges from $40 to the $100 range. We have Honest Basics, which ranges from $12 to around the $50 range, so that's definitely one of the more affordable ones. We have Pact, which ranges from $20 to $100 range, and Make the Label, which ranges from $30 to the $200 range, and Mud Jeans, which is within the $100 range, and like the name suggests, focuses on jeans. Outland Denim also focuses on jeans and denim, and they also have graphic tees, and maybe you can fit the 90s aesthetic, and they range from $60 to the $200 range, but they do have sales as well. And finally, we have Groceries Apparel, which has basics and athletic wear as well, and those prices range from $30 to the $100 range. So we have quite an extensive list of sustainable and ethical brands, and to be completely transparent, I haven't bought from most of them, so I can't attest to their quality and their customer service. I do have stuff from Mingo London and Veja, but that's pretty much it. But if these are out of your budget, I definitely recommend buying secondhand and thrifting, and even buying items from these brands that I mentioned secondhand is even more sustainable. Or if you don't have thrift stores near you, you can shop secondhand online through sites like Depop, which honestly their prices and shipping fees are getting pretty expensive as well, but it's worth checking out because they do have pretty extensive collection and a lot of sellers on there. There's Poshmark, Mercari, Vinted, ThreadUp, even eBay. You can find some clothing on there as well. Other than that, you can even learn to sew and DIY a lot of your clothing, or thrift flip some of your clothing that you have already. And I feel like those are very sustainable options, and you can learn a new skill and hobby as well. I find sewing very fun, though it can be pretty time consuming, but it's so cool to be able to make like exactly what you want. So I think it's definitely a skill worth picking up, and there's tons of YouTube tutorials online, so check that out. Or you could even learn to crochet and knit if you want to make those kind of items. So I think there's a lot of options for building a sustainable wardrobe, even if you don't have the budget for brands like these, which like personally I don't, but I feel like I've been able to thrift a lot of items, and I've been able to get my wardrobe to be a lot more sustainable than it was before. And I feel like thrifting also allows you to find more unique pieces that you wouldn't just find in a typical mall store. So definitely recommend thrifting and DIY, but these brands are also really cool, and I'm definitely going to check them out too. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned about some cool new brands, and definitely check out Good On You because it's such a good resource for looking for sustainable and ethical brands. So that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, like, comment, and subscribe if you aren't already. Let me know in the comments what videos you want me to do in the future, what aesthetics you want me to cover, and what outfit ideas you want to see. And follow me on Instagram at DRESSRELIEF and on TikTok at DRESSRELIEF, and I'll see you guys next time.